For a while, I used to think that characters were divided like this, with the main cast and the side characters in two different categories. Sometimes characters slide from one side to the other. For example, Link. Link's importance was kind of dropped after he ended any romantic relationship with Sam. But when thinking about it, it's probably super wrong to put it like this. Because you wouldn't put characters like Sam's coworkers Umad in the Shaggy knockoff, with characters like Sam's guildmates or Marshall's friends. So then I thought it would be better like this, 3 categories. Main character, side character, and background character. And while that may be better, I think the best way to represent this is probably with a slider. On one side being the main characters, the royals of the webtoon. In Let's Play, it's Sam and Marshall. Doesn't matter how much they appear or don't, they will never not be the main characters. And on the other side, background characters, like this guy with glasses whose name eludes me. Someone who's talked twice in one chapter. The point is that there are a lot of characters that fall anywhere in between this slider. But one that I have alluded to talking about before falls somewhere right in the middle, and is the biggest reason that I had to change my ways of thinking about characters. Angela O'Neil. Appearing at the same time as Vicky, it's important to know that they are very much opposites to each other. In Vicky's video, I said that they are yin and yang. Vicky is incredibly caring and emotional, crying at the thought of someone hurting her friend and hugging them in order to comfort them. However, Angela has other ideas of friendship. Immediately when she sees her friend crying, she wants to beat up the person who made her cry. And when she hears that Martial Law is the person who trashed Sam's game, she doesn't change her mind and she still wants to beat up Martial Law, still using the same colorful language in both moments. And that's a relatively important aspect to Angela. Not the colorful language, well, actually yeah, that's an aspect, but I'm talking about the, let's say, disdain she feels towards Marshall. And we get to see this a lot, as she's constantly calling Marshall Marshmallow, which is both amazing and kind of a better YouTube name than Martial Law. Anyways, when Marshall goes to their favorite coffee spot, a moment that I've literally mentioned 3 times now, we see Angela trying to throw hands. Marshmallow, you will pay for hurting my friends. You played our friend Sam's game Ruminite, and you played it like a darn twit. Lies and slander. There's no way our cinnamon roll Sam would confront you. As a dental hygienist, I know the best way to knock teeth out. And does try to do said thing, charging straight at him and tries to commit what is known in the business as assault and battery, but being held back by my boy Link. But due to being held back, she starts to freak out and bites him, leaving a mark. And here's where we get some 10 out of 10 symbolism, as we see her fear fade into rage, something important to who Angela is, as we hear Vicky apologize to Marshall, explaining 3 of us have a really long history together. And Angela has her reasons for being very protective of Sam. I realize now that Let's Play doesn't tend to show backstory. Well, we get to see some, like how Link got to know Sam, but they never show the childhood of their characters. Sam, being one of the most important characters, gets the most screen time as a child, as we get to see her difficult past and how it molded her into who she is now. But we also get to see that difficult past intertwine into Angela's past. Angela was, let's say, a troubled child, swearing more as a child than I do now, which is when Sam got involved in her life. We hear from their teacher that, you're the youngest of 7 kids, right? I remember when your sextuplet brothers were in this grade. They were a real handful. It can't be easy being the youngest and only daughter in such a big family. I can only imagine how often you must feel left out and overlooked. Not to mention, the attention you do get from your brothers is probably closer to bullying than anything else. Which is why I think you tend to pick on those around you who seem weaker than you. Just because your brothers act that way doesn't mean you have to act that way too. It's up to you to decide what kind of person you want to be. There is, apparently, according to one quick Google search, without any further research done, a 1 in 4.7 billion chance that sextuplets are born. Apparently there have been 160 recorded times worldwide that sextuplets have been born, and not all of them have even survived. The point is that having older sextuplet brothers is not only incredibly rare, but also incredibly difficult, especially for a little sister. Angela had no choice but to learn how to fight back. She had no choice but to learn how to try and get stronger. Even, as the teacher says, picking on those who are weaker than her to feel some semblance of strength over others. And it's this way with Sam at first. Sam was always a weaker child, both physically and health-wise. So at first, Angela wasn't the nicest towards Sam. But after Sam helps Angela cheat on a math test and helps her study, their friendship slowly starts to grow. At first, Angela denies this, but when she sees Sam being bullied by other students, something in her clicks. She realizes that Sam has been through the same pains that she has been through. She realizes that she's been in the same position of powerlessness that she's been struggling with. And she finally realized why she's been in that place, why she's been struggling, why she's been learning to fight back, to grow, to get stronger. It wasn't to fight her brothers, the people who bully and tease her. It was to fight the people who hurt her and her friends. It was to protect the people she cares about. And we get to see this when Angela calls out the kids bullying Sam. Right after adding some colorful language, we get this shot. The school symbol, a knight, lining up perfectly with Angela, almost like she's wearing the armor, with the sword and shield equipped. Eventually just beating up the kids and promising to keep Sam safe and to protect her from danger. And this knight, this protective aura, is shown constantly with Sam. While we get to see it first with Mr. Marshmallow, with the whole assault thing, we do get to see it more with Link. While Angela is at the gym, Link asks her about Sam, where Angela explains, "Sam is one of my closest friends, Link. I can't betray her trust by telling you what she said to me in confidence. Link, I'm possibly the worst person to ask for dating advice. It's been ages since the last time I was seeking anything romantic. But for the first time since I've known her, Sam has started to think about dating and romance, and I believe you're the one who's brought that out in her. So I think that has to stand for something. I know she helped you through a tough time. And to me, it sounds like you adore her. Adoration is another form of love. I think that if you and Sam spend more time alone together, you'll grow even more fond of her. And your adoration may turn into something more intimate. So please don't give up on her, okay?" Giving Link some solid advice, and ending off the little gym meeting with, "But if you do anything to hurt Sam, or take advantage of her in any way, you will have to answer to me." And Link does have to answer to her. After Link ends things with Sam, we do get to see that little discussion between the two. Before that, let's talk about what Angela said before. "It's been ages since the last time I was seeking anything romantic." And it's not because she didn't have anyone to aim for. In fact, she was quite taken by Link. When they first met, they had a lot in common, and he was, as she puts it, her type. But she put her friend first. And when Link ended things with Sam, Angela set out to do exactly what she promised, pushing Link up against the wall and questioning him for what he's done. Which brings me to a separate but connected matter. Something I've been saving for the end to discuss for both the intrigue and because I've kind of been dreading it. That Angela bit Link because he was holding her back and she started to freak out. But there's kind of more to that. And a warning, in a way, I guess. We hear from Sam that Angela was assaulted. She fought back though, and that's the reason that the assaulter was arrested, because they were able to match his injuries to her. But Angela's been in a dark place for a while. She's always had a temper. But since the incident, she taught herself to channel her fear into anger. And because of that, I think she has a hard time finding her way out of that darkness. I'm going to talk about the emoticons, the emotions that we see at another time. I don't want to get too deep into that. But we do get to see that darkness, that fear entrapping her. Angela has gone through a lot, and it's easy to see what it's done to her, what it's made her into. It's easy to see what molded her. 6 older brothers and an assault weighs on someone, changing someone who might be just a tad aggressive or with a little too much temper to someone who thinks about fighting first and asking questions later. Someone who's not afraid to call someone out on their crap, like Marshall, or Link. The idea of not being afraid to make enemies, the idea of not being afraid to be the villain. Which is why I'm putting Angela into neutral evil. I stated before that I don't really think anyone in the evil category is evil, but they all have that same idea and mindset of not being afraid to make enemies, not being afraid to be a little rude, a little aggressive, a little, well, in Angela's case, actually try to physically assault someone. Angela oftentimes follows rules and social conventions, but also often doesn't, as we've seen her physically try to attack people. But that's just my thoughts and observations on Angela. What do you think? Do you like her character? Do you think she deserves more screen time? Leave it in the comments. And like always, thank you for watching.